a very important relationship or person to know when dealing with some of the more difficult and complicated shilas. So it's a very special opportunity for us to have Rabbi Weitzman on the shiur this morning.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you. Rabbi Didier, Rabbi Leibowitz, Rabbi Schwartz. Thank you very much. We're going to speak a little bit about you did Chatzitzot. So Chatzitzot and lots of other things in Hilchot Niddah. That's not good.
Are you recording on your laptop?
I don't think so.
Presentation? The presentation, I mean.
No, I can send a presentation now.
Okay, fine. Great.
I can send it. So, when I learned Hilchot Niddah with my Chavuta many years ago, so we learned Hilchot Niddah. We did pretty well. We passed the exam with Rabbanut. It's not so easy. And then we started both working Machon Puah. And we suddenly realized that a lot of the Hilchot Niddah is very different when in the Shetach than it is in the Shulchan Aruch. And so the question, lots of questions. I think every siman of Shulchan Aruch, you have to actually learn how to apply. I think hopefully Bezrat Hashem, that's what we do in semikha. I had a podcast, a very famous podcast with Rabbi Leibowitz recently that we spoke about that, about the caliber of students. So Baruch Hashem, I get to sit with you. And we're going to look at one very small thing, which is a question of medical and cosmetic chatzitzot. So the dinim of chatzitzot, everybody knows here, right? We know that it has to be rachatz b'saro b'mayim. We're not going to go through all the makorot because everybody here is baki and Hilchot Niddah. So says the Gemara, says the Midrash, the Sifra, that therefore we learn that it's that from that pasuk we learn that it has to be biat shimsho. Kulo ke'echad, af mayim kulo ke'echad. The woman has to go immerse completely into the water. What does that mean exactly? So says Rashi that her body should touch the water. And the Shulchan Aruch is posek. There's a machlokas we know between the Ramah has a special chumrah. We'll see in a moment. Sicha shetitbol kol gufa b'pam echad. The tefillah has to be b'pam echad. That's different. Kelim is slightly different. We know that in ilchot kelim you don't necessarily have to matbil the whole clear one go. But for a human being, the tefillah has to be once. פעם אחד. Therefore, says the Shulchan Aruch, לפיכך צריך שלא יהיה עליה שום דבר חוצץ, אפילו כלשהו. And the question then becomes, how do we define a chatzitza? So we know that the Gemara, Masechet Sukkah, says, it's in Doraita, the whole din of chatzitza is a din Doraita, because it says Besaro b'mayim, as we just said. However, the Gemara is mavdil between things that she has she's makpid on, I think she's not makpid on. Okay, so we're looking again, we don't have to go through all the makorot, everybody knows it here. Amar B'Yitzchak, Devar Torah rubo makpid alav. If something that completely covers her body, or covers most of her body, then it's chotzetz, but if it's not chotzetz. V'gazru al devar rubo she'eino makpid. So rubo, that even if she's not makpid. And then there's another gezerah, it's a question, what is a gezerah? Again, we're not giving a shiur on the lomdas here. The al-gizru al-me'uto ha-makpid. So bonigzol miuto she'eino makpid. Answers no, that's too much. Igu for gezerah, van nikom nigzol gezerah. So therefore, there's one gezerah that we're makpid on miuto hamakpid. What does it mean hamakpid? So that's a good question. There's a machloket, as we know in the Rishonim, as to whether hair is considered to be a separate entity. Is hair considered to be a separate entity of itself? The Rambam says that we look at the hair together. When we look at the rov, we look at a human being. Hair is part of the body or something else? Do we look at rov ha'se'ar? Do we look at differently? Again, it's sugyot that you people know here. And the Shulchan Aruch pasek like the Gonim that the se'ar is considered a separate entity, unlike the Rambam. The Chochmat Adam says that mikom safek, then we can mitzaref the day of the Rambam. If we have something that's safek, if it's rov, lo rov, and it's in the hair as well, the woman fell into a paint. And she came out, so when it was some in the hair, not we consider the Chochmat Adam there says it can be mekel. The Prisha is mistapek if whether the se'ar is considered a goof, whether it's also there's areas of the body. So there's areas of hair that they're supposed to be hair, the head, other places, whether that's considered to be separate. Chochmat Adam says we're machmir, and the Ramak there says we can be mekel. So the Shulchan Aruch, as we just said, says that a person needs to tovel cause the goof that we just saw, the same din. Kol shehu ve'im derech bnei adam lefa'amim lakpid alav chotzetz. The hakpada is what generally people are makpid alav. That's a question I think you get a lot of times with women. Says, well, I'm not makpid on having toenails. I'm not having cleaning parts of my body. The world is, I'm not. So that's a sheila. We'll speak in a moment. But the Ramah has a chumrah. It's a chumrah of the Ramah. Lechatchil lo tibol afilu b'devarim she'enim chotzetzim. So the sheila we always give when we ask the people who went through the shiur. Okay, a woman wants to go to tefillah with a chain. She's got a chain. She's got a necklace. So that's the chor, not makpid. It's not the gown. But the chor, the Ramah says even that we should be completely remove everything. So we just said, what's the question of hakpada? We're running through this quickly, but I guess everybody knows this. What if she's makpid? A woman says, I don't know what the wool does, but I'm makpida that this little bit of nail polish, I'm makpida. That I would go. What's the hakpada? How do we define hakpada? So it's a good question. What are you makpid? Because a lot of people will go with dirt during the day, but at night they want to clean it off, or they want to when they're on Shabbat they clean. People generally, I see my children are generally clean on Shabbat and not during the week. That's generally, I think they're the only Bacharei Yeshiva like that. I think it's generally Makubal in Bacharei Yeshiva, like maybe in Eretz Yisrael. They clean it on Shabbat, they're not during the week. So what's the hakpada? Shabbat or during the week? So what we generally say is, what would you do if you went to your sister's wedding? Why is that? What's the diuk here? So for a general wedding, that's like Shabbat. For your own wedding, a woman has her own. If anybody here, anybody has children who got married? I probably know. You had a daughter got married? Sons. So sons marrying is like Shabbat. Daughters marrying is like Pesach. So it's mamash. When my daughters got married, the whole house is turned into a beauty salon, and that's a whole every single piece of shaot. We're already leaving. My daughter, the kala, is still there for another few hours. Okay. So but the sister's wedding is sort of an in-between. That's a point at which I know that I'm going to be in the pictures, so I have some hakpada more than usual, but it's not akol. That's a hakpada. It's interesting, Geder, we heard it from poskim like that. That's what I generally ask women. Would you be makbed to go to your sister's wedding like that? There's also, of course, we know a difference of opinion as to whether something that's underneath the clothing, let's say a toenail. So we know that the Chamudei Daniel in Pitrei Tshuva has a whole issue that the toenails are different than fingernails. Fingernails people see. But toenails, if a woman wears closed shoes, or she wears socks and closed shoes, so then generally we don't, with something we don't see. So how do we define hakpada? So it's a whole question of itself, Shelat Tovah. We're not going to necessarily answer that today. If he makpida, v'acherot lo makpidot, that's chotzet, that's clear. A woman says, I'm makpid. I don't care what everybody else, I'm makpida. That's clear that it's chotzet. He lo makpedit. She says, I don't care. I don't care about having a little bit of hair on my mustache. I don't care. But generally the oilam is makpid. Generally it's something that a woman would remove for her sister's wedding, the vadai. Then the Achiezer says, Yish tzaref b'zeh shitat dazlina b'tardida. There are dayot that we go according to what's her makpida. Makes more sense. She's makpid. So if it's something that she's mamash lo makpida, but the whole world is let b'di'evid, and b'di'evid is a question of how do we define b'di'evid here? V'gam de lo kaim melanken da'alacha mikom hakom nishtasfal esnif. That's what the Achiezer says. The Achiezer says that we can mitzaref the fact that we go what is her hakpada. We don't always know what all women are makpid. I have a WhatsApp group of madrichot kala. And they send me sometimes pictures of fingernails. Okay, this fingernail, it's a little bit broken here, it's a little bit chipped. It's a little bit a makpid. I don't know what women are makpid. I don't know what I only have a very small pool of women to check, but the women who live in my house. My wife she doesn't know anything about that. My daughter, a little bit. But that's a makpid. There's 3 or 4 women that you ask. What's considered zesharat tova? If we say we're going according to the oilam, who's the oilam? The olam is in, I don't even know the shchunot here. But there's one shchuna as opposed to a different shchuna. I assume that the way that they makpid in shchuna aleph is different than the way they makpid in shchuna bet. I was speaking people's smiles that people know what we're talking about. I don't want to mashmitz yudim. So this is she'ela tova. Chatzitzot makpida le rak lefamim. A woman sometimes is makpida. What's sometimes makpida? So she's makpida like that to sleeping, or she's makpida she goes to an occasion. We just said irua. Then that's considered chotzetz. Kevan she'akpada lefamim nechshevet akpada. We generally hold that even if you have hakpada for a certain amount of time, that's why we said her sister's wedding, that would be considered to be hakpada. The whole diyun of chatzitzot is only when her body goes into the water. But if someone was outside of the water, we have one hair that's outside the water, tefillah lo tala. That's why we need to have a balanit, why we need to have a mikveh lady. Because it's clear that you have removed all the chatzitzot lagamri. One sayar is outside the water, tefillah lo tala. It's not considered tefillah. Lo yabot kol besara. So the whole din of chatzitzot is only a din if you all went into the water. If you weren't all in the water, we have a question about women are not able to put their head on the water. They don't want to put their head underwater because of sakana, because they won't be able to breathe, or they have an aversion. People who are very, very, very afraid to put their head underwater. You have people who are handicapped. They're not able to get inside the mikveh. Well, not again completely. I don't know what the din is here in New York, but in Eretz Yisrael, there's every few cities there's a mikveh, or in every city there's one mikveh that's ready-made for women who are not able to walk. They have that here also in New York, yeah. And people know where they are. People know where those mikvahot are. Okay, so that's very important. You're a Rav in New York. Okay, not everybody is going to be a Rav in New York. There are in the world other cities. And so people are going to go to be in other cities. You should know that there may be a mikveh in the area that's ready made for people who are disabled, that they have a chair that you can descend inside the mikveh and sit on it. It's also a question, because then maybe it's Chatzitzot, the actual sitting on a chair, so you have to make sure that it's wet before, or she wets herself before, or she can stand in the mikveh before and then sit on a chair. We have to understand her level, and to be able to have tefillah. This should be that we're able to do that. There's also a whole deal, which we're not getting into today, of using a bucket with a hole. That's a big deal, which is that's beyond the scope of what we're going to speak about today. That she stands in a mikveh, we put a bucket over her, that we have a kiluach that connects to the mikveh, and then she can pass it over her head. Some people that's easier than immersing themselves. That's not for people who can't get wet at all. People who have an aversion, sometimes that's easier for them. Yeah, that also. It has to be, we've got a whole sugi of how large the hole has to be, etc., etc. A woman has a suffix if she had a chatzitzot or not. It's a devar ma'od mod matzui. It's very common that a woman comes out and says, later on, we had a question today. We have a group of my rabbanim. We have in Machon Puah. Machon Puah was established 30 years ago in Eretz Yisrael. We've been here in America for 20 years. We recently, 3 years ago, opened a branch in Mexico, for South America. We just had our Hanukkah Tabayit 2 weeks ago in Mexico City. We have an office in Paris. And we have sister organizations in South Africa and Australia. Machon Puah in Eretz Yisrael, we have 15 rabbanim. Here we have 2 in North America, 1 here in New York area and 1 in Los Angeles area, and 2 rabbanim in Mexico. And we have also in Eretz Yisrael also 5 women who answer for women who want to speak from woman to woman, but not halachic things, more counseling. And so we have, Baruch Hashem, about 300 calls every single day. I would say probably 80% of them are Taharat HaMishpacha. 20% fertility and genetics, and 80% are Taharat HaMishpacha. It's a little different in Israel than it is here, because not everybody has a Rav. Therefore, why are they asking Machon Puah, not asking their Rav? So because not everybody has a Rav, etc. So we have a group of, we have several groups for our Rabbanim, for the 15 Rabbanim that are there, and then when I have a few minutes, so I'm able to go into that group. And one of the questions asked today was a woman who went to the mikveh, and she had a problem. She had something in her nose, a scab in her nose. And when she came out later, she'd already been with her husband. She found a little bit that was still there, maybe from the scab. So it's a safek. Was it there before? Was not there before? Rav Borstein, who founded the Machon 30 years ago, he liked to tell the story that when he was founding Machon Puah and started to deal with Taharat HaMishpacha, he sat with Rav Mordechai Eliyahu Zatzal, and who wrote the book Darkei Tahara. People know that book, Darkei Tahara? Okay, so when I got married, that was the only book on hilchos Niddah that existed. Today, every Monday and Thursday, there's another book on hilchos Niddah, Baruch Hashem Hashem. Maybe people in this room will also see another book on hilchos Niddah. So he was answering the phone, and a woman called and said, I just came from the mikveh, and I have something between my teeth. Rav Eliyahu said to her, it's from the apple. So it's a good answer. What's from the apple? So he said this woman calls every single month. Every single month she's got a chatzitzot between her teeth. So I said to her, when you come out of the mikveh, take a big bite of an apple. Take a big green apple with you. Take a big bite. Everything else we told is from the apple. It's from the apple. So that's OCD, which we'll get to in a little bit later. We have time. So you can tell me till when we were speaking. The clock there's no clock in front here. There's only a clock behind here, which is very bad if you're a shul. You know that. The shul should have 2 clocks. One for the rabbi behind here and one for the kila. The one for the rabbi should be earlier than the one for the kila. So the rabbi will finish quicker. Yes. What is 12. So what happens if you have a suffix? So the Sfardim hold that if there was chafifa, the Sfardim Shulchan Aruch, not all Sfardim hold like Shulchan Aruch. That's also itself in itself. It's not all the Sfardim hold the same. We were just in Mexico, So the Rabbanim there learned it Machon Puah. And in Eretz Yisrael, Rav Vadia is the posek for the Sfardim. But they're Chalabim. Chalabim don't necessarily hold exactly like Rav Vadia. So there's a machloket about certain things that they had. They did different. I said, I see Rav Vadia didn't get to Mexico. They don't makim the psakim. So the Shulchan Aruch and the Rav Vadia's in line of Shulchan Aruch says, Im chafifa bota ona. She did chafifa in that ona. I.e. that the chafifa was samuch in the same ona to the tefillah. Ken or besamuch the tefillah. It could be not exactly the ona. Let's say she's tovel mamash betzet kochovim. And the tefillah was samuch, but not exactly in the same ona. So those are two possibilities that the Shulchan Aruch says. Either bota ona or samuch letfilata. Generally that's together. Or she did iyun samuch letfilah. She looked and she saw it couldn't happen. Then she doesn't have to do tefillah. However, the Ramah, Ashkenazim generally hold, Ramah, not only the Ramah, that if she did chafifa be'otana, ve also was samuch letfilah. That if it was on that ona, but it wasn't samuch letfilah. She did it on that ona, but it was she did it at the beginning of the evening, and she went to mikveh 2 hours later. Or then it's loko kach barur that she's then she has to go back and do tefillah again. Loko kach pashut. Beyond that, we know that there's also dinim of balua, something that's inside the guf. Beta starim is not inside, is not absorbed, but it's something that's inside, or it's something that's that we don't see. And beta kamatim is the like under the folds, like under the armpits, etc. There's a different dinim. We're not going to go through all those dinim together. So the beta starim, the Gemara brings a good case of Bet Rebbe, that there he was mekel. Rav Moshe says, well, let's go for the psak. Rav Moshe says, Eino chotzet bebeit starim ela chatzitza midivrehem midvarim an midbabkim. In beit starim, it's only things that attach. Okay, we'll speak about what that means. Like devik, tit. But ken, aval devarim she'en midbakim, rak munachim, there's something that's inside the mouth. Chewing gum. When we went to tefillah with chewing gum, it's inside the mouth. It doesn't stick to the teeth. So then it's not considered chatzitza but beit starim. We're all mekel in beit starim. That's the varim she'eduim. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about fingernails. Fingernails is probably the greatest fight of Rabbanim. There was a fight that probably was mukhra a few years ago, which is the whole question about using nail polish, lac, nail polish, yeah, gel, and then beyond gel is also you can embed in the gel stones. And so I don't know anything about nail polish. We have one of the Rabbanim, and Machon Puah is a mumche in all sorts of tamukei nashim, in all sorts of ipur. How do you say that a woman puts on makeup? Your makeup. So he's a mumche. He sat with makeup experts, and he's mamash mumche. If he has a question, he can call his makeup artist. She'll tell you. So we went. My mother had celebrated her 89th birthday a couple of weeks ago. So mamash the day before we came, we went out. And with this, the waitress comes and she's got long nails. I said to her, "How do you do the nails? How does it work out?" She was very interested. Well, I'm suddenly interested in her nails. How do you do it? How do you make it? So it was very. So now I'm also mumche. Okay. So the Shulchan Aruch holds that the machlokas, we know that the siporin itself, the fingernail itself, is not chotzitz. However, the women generally have the minhag to cut their nails. You listed v'chol was not Shulchan Aruch questions today. The Ramah that says that since there's a minhag to cut nails, so even if the nail is it remains, even b'taut, then she has to go back. She has to do tefillah again, and that's the minhag. The Taz says, but the Avad, she was together with her husband. We know that that's also a different stage. Again, we're not going to go into that whole din. Then she doesn't have to go to tefillah again. The Achiezer says we don't have to censure women who didn't cut their nails. B'sev mikarden is not chotzitz. It's very interesting because look at that, right? So we went from the Ramah to the Taz to the Achiezer, and I'm thinking if you have poskim today. Lechatchila, women don't cut their nails. Every few generations, maybe even less today, that minhag changes. So when you say what's the minhag of nashim, you have to know what's the minhag of nashim. You have to know minhag of nashim today, not the minhag of nashim in Warsaw 500 years ago, in Krakow 500 years ago, or even the minhag of nashim in Vilna 100 years ago. You have to know what's the minhag in Queens, in West Hampstead. We were in West Hampstead last week, yeah. It's Hampstead. That's why you have to know what's the minhag. Yes.
Between long nails versus nail polish.
Yeah, but vaday. Question of Shabbat. What do we do if a woman comes to tefillah on Shabbat? So the Rama says you ask a goy. The Taz says you menakeh underneath. You menakeh. And the Chosmas Adam says she can't do tefillah. Again, so it's different minhagim. Ken, v'kasha. Ken.
Isn't the Rama establishing the halacha based on minhag?
Bavadai. That's the minhag. Hakpada is a minhag. Hakpada is what the women usually makpid. And if we say it's only what she's makpid, which we don't hold like, we just saw before, then we have to ask her, you makpida, lo makpida? I would imagine most women say, lo makpida, if you came to the mikveh with nails. But if we say no, what you say is nechmad, that's b'di'evet, the Achiezer said we can somich on that, but that's not a minhag, that's not the real psak. So we have to say, well, the world noheg is 100% minhag. And it changes. It changes. Why today? With fingernails? If we say that the fingernail itself is chotzitz, that's like the Rama seems to say, because women are always going to cut it off. As she comes to it knowing she's going to cut it off tomorrow, so then you say that's chotzitz. But if we hold it like the Shulchan Aruch, which seems to be the psak really al pi halacha, is that there's not. We're not going again to the Rishonim Machon because I don't want to waste your time here. But if we say that the Shulchan Aruch, it's not the fingernails chotzitz. The question: why is the fingernail chotzitz? That's what the Taz says, because it's maybe unclean. It's not clean underneath. So clean underneath. So if we say the fingernail itself is not chotzitz, and the minhag is to leave fingernails, then maybe the whole thing becomes different. Becomes a different minhag. I know that. You have to know what your minhag is in your city. I know what is in my city. I don't know what's in your city. Avodat lechor is the as we just said, in the fingernails, it's in the toenails, it's slightly different. That we make mekel is chamudei Daniel. Removing hair is also a question. What is hair? How much hair is hair removed? So there are kilot in which hair removal is 100%. The women shave their head. That's it. If you don't shave your head, then it's a chotzitz in mikveh. Generally, we don't have that. I would imagine that most women that we know don't have that minhag. But we often see women that do have that minhag. A question about the chol hamoed. Okay, ניכנס קצת יותר to a medical chatzitzot. The Shoel Umeshiv says, "Irachti the kolshu mishum refuah vaday lo makpedei." There's a din already earlier in the Rishonim. The Shoel Umeshiv says anything that's for a medical reason is not chotzitz. Why? If the whole din of Chatzitzot is I don't want it to be there, I want it to be there. I have an Indian, I want that to be there. I want it to be this plaster, because without the plaster, I'm going to get infection. So I want it to be we'll see, various other medical things. That's a very important klal. However, you have to make sure that it's not removable. If it's removable and I don't want it there, or I don't want it at the time of washing, then it's not so pashut that it's not chotzitz. That's the Sholem Meshiv. And the Encyclopedia Al-Chatid Refuid of Professor Steinberg, he says, "Devar chotzitz ha-meshamesh le-refuah. Yesh kadvu de-kevan she-rotzono la-siro ela she-eino yachol." I want to remove it. I don't want it to be there. But I can't take it off because the doctor says you have to leave it. You have to leave it there. I don't want it there. I have no interest in being there. But the doctor wants it to be there. Harei ze nikra makpid alav chotzitz. I don't want it to be there. That's some yesh diot. Aval rabim say cholkim. So if we say eno nikra makpid ve'eno chotzitz. Chotzitz is not what I at the moment don't want it. Generally, it's a medical reason you want it to be there, especially if it's talking about sakana. Talking about sakana, then generally we say that it's a devarch that is lo makpid. How long does it have to be there to be considered kavua? So machloket, lots of deot. There's deot that has to be there a year. So let's take an example, a cast. Someone's got a cast on a leg. So it's generally not there for a year. So if it's a year, it's not too good. Some say half a year, chatzi shana. Some say shloshim yom, the cast generally is there. Shavua. And some say shlosha yamim. It's the idea of ona, that her onot is generally shlosha yamim. And it's also we can maybe connect it to Shabbat, to what's kavur, what's not kavur. Let's swing back with Rosh Hashanah about that in the Beit Midrash. Tov. The Rosh also has a day that what's noi. What's there for noi? A person not makpid for the same reason. I want it to be there. A woman wants to have eyeliner. She wants it to be there. It's a noise, not makpid. The Encyclopedia Al-Khatit Refuit says that Devar Hasur Lenoi Yeshum She'eno Chotzetz V'yesh Cholkim. Im Eino Yachol Asira El Yaldei Uman. It's not. It's there for noi. It's, let's say, the fingernail, the nail polish, the, what do you call it, gel. In Ivrit, it's called the lac gel. So she has lac gel. You can remove it, but you have to go to a cosmetician to remove it. Uman. So that's how. So then I even though me say it's chotzetz, it's part of your body. You can't remove it. It's only uman. Then it's not chotzetz. That's also talking about things that are medical. Im eino makpid al etzem hadavar chotzetz rak masiro lefamim biglal sibot acherot. Then it's not considered chotzetz. Tov. So the makorot that we're going to look at in the next 15 minutes or so. This is Sefer Puah. Sefer Puah was a book that's written. It's already just came out, the 5th volume. That is written about all the questions that Machon Puah deals with. Every volume deals with something else, and it's a very, very comprehensive. Many dayot. I'm sure they have it here in the Beit Midrash. Taraka El Chata for Rav Forkash. Yemei Torah by Rav Yonah. Let's talk a little bit about cosmetics. Okay, so earrings, if they're very stiff and you can't, there's no water can get in, then it's clear that's chotzetz. But what if they're refuim? What if they're loose? What if they're loose and water can get in? Then lechora maybe b'diavad we say it's not. What about kavua? A woman has a earring, so everybody knows how you make earrings right here. So what do you do to make earrings? You put a hole. And you have to leave it there for a few weeks, otherwise the hole will, if you take it off, the hole will clog up. And some women leave it there forever. They have those studs that are there forever. They never ever take them off, never ever remove them. So that's the chora kavur, becomes part of her body. It was there for a shana. Then the chora, maybe it's not chotzetz, that's the chora what it says there. What about a ring? So when a woman gets married, the ring is beautiful, it comes on and off. And then when she gets older, it doesn't come on off so easily. We usually get larger. Usually the minhag of the olam is to get larger after you get married than before marriage. That's the minhag of the olam. So the ring becomes a little bit more mehudak. You can't take it off. It's mudak. If we can't turn it round, it's chotzetz. It's not so pashut that it's chotzetz for netilat yadayim. I love that they have this little thing that for netilat yadayim you take it off, you put your rings on. Look how pashut for netilat yadayim you need to do that. For tefillah you need. But if you can turn a ring around, then b'diavad, it's she doesn't have to go back and tovel again. If there's no way she can remove the ring, shumpaniv often she can't remove the ring, then she has to wet her hand, put her hand in the water, turn the ring around. She can turn the ring around, she just can't remove it because the finger became too fat, she can't remove it. So she can turn it around, the water will get in. So that we can say lechora as a sheila b'diavad. Oh, now the big Indian is the lac, gel. So there's a whole way of how to create the lac gel. And if you'd have been to me at the restaurant, you would have heard this whole big hartzaf from this woman about how to make lac gel. So this is mamash. Let's understand why it would be mekil. It's lenoi. She wants it to be that. It's a noi. It's kavua. It can only be removed by oman. Why b'cholofen is the rabbanim fight against it? Because it's vadai, against the Ramah. The Ramah Pshut says we remove everything we can. So you have to go to a cosmetician once a month. So go to a cosmetician the day before the tefillah and remove it. When do we get it? When did it become very problematic? During the corona. During the corona, people couldn't go out. I don't think that they thought the cosmeticians were essential workers. And so people couldn't go out. They could go out, whatever. Every few weeks they would close it up. One's got to go to mikveh. To go to mikveh, you're allowed. They would give you a heter to go to mikveh. But we couldn't go to the cosmetician. So then it became a lot of sheilot. What if I can fill it up by myself? Can a woman cover it by herself and it'll look like she would go to a wedding? How would she go to a wedding? She had a wedding on the corona. What would she do? Sheilot. So you have to fill in the gap. So what happens is the fingernail grows. You have to fill in the gap. And if you're on this group of the Madichot Kalot, you'll get every week, every day, a picture of a fingernail. There's a little bit of a gap, a smaller gap, a larger gap, a little bit broken, not a bit broken. Very interesting. If it's complete, if the lac is complete, the gel is complete, and it looks like she would go to a wedding, she did it the day before, or 2 days before, or a week before, but it's complete, then lechora, it's olela. If it is broken, then she wouldn't go to a wedding like that. Then she is makpid to remove it. Then she'd have to remove it. Then we get into the stones. Right, when we come in, they have stones. They have a whole thing. This is it's got it. This is a mukubal here in New York. People have the stones. Yeah, depends which kila you're in, I guess. So they said, Shela Tova, Avanim Tovot Umagaliot, is that considered to be Mchotzitz? If it's broken, so we have the nail polish, but it's broken. So it's Shela Tova. Then we get into all sorts of makeup. If there's no mamashud in the makeup, the chora, it's not chotzitz. No mamashud. Moshe has a tshuva like that. Others. If there's mamashud, if you can feel it, then the lo chora, it's not pashut. Unless it's maleh. If she goes into the mikveh and the makeup is complete, and she comes out and it's complete, she was makbid, that's the way it should be. When do we get a question? That question I always get on Shabbat Chatan. I went to my brother's Shabbat Chatan. My wife has to go to mikveh that night. Ma'osim. Why Shabbat Chatan? Because if it's at home, so she'll put on makeup Erev Shabbat. She'll remove it. She'll go to mikveh. Kol yeh beseder. But on Shabbat Chatan, the Shabbat morning, she's got to come out. Everybody's going to see her. They're going to say, "What did yesterday? You obviously have to remove it at the mikveh." So that's when it becomes a sheila. Becomes. Oh, you have no Shabbatot, chevra. So if it's complete, some say you can go to the mikveh with the makeup on. There's different questions about exactly how much. What's better? Is it better to go to the? We had a whole question. Is it better to go to mikveh early, Friday afternoon, Yom HaShavi'i? So is it even before Ben HaShmashot? Is that easy? That's a sheila gdola. So we know that Rav Vadia is makel b'zeh, and others are mostly more machmir. Ashkenazim more machmirim. And or is it better to put on the kavua? There's also a Shabbat makeup. There's a Shabbat makeup that's special. I was just in New York, in Queens. I saw there selling makeup, Shabbat makeup. Oh, Baruch Hashem. That's before we knew from before. Tattoos. Woman has a tattoo. It's more common now than ever was before. Seems that everybody's having tattoos, and that's clearly the tattoo's not chotzetz. What about if it's a temporary tattoo? The temporary tattoo is we're going to remove it. It's also not chotzetz. Embozem mamash. It's not a thing that's a good thing to do. We speak about why it's a bad thing to do, but it's not so pashut. It's chotzetz. Removing the hair. Hair conditioner. Women have hair conditioner. If it's on the hair, you can feel it. If you put a hair conditioner, you put it, even a few days later, you can feel like a little oily, a little like a lubrication. But that's a devar chotzetz. It's a zokka pashut. So therefore, she has to make sure that she removes as much as possible. Hair coloring, less of a problem. It's not chotzetz. A bow, ponytail. So a ponytail, right? It's sidei taras is not chotzetz. The prima gadim is mistapek. Maybe we have to have it's a sheila. What about if you do some Shabbat? She has on Shabbat. She's allowed to untie it and retie it. But generally, don't tie it on Shabbat. Hair additions. People have hair. They have additions to their hair. So sheila if it's chotzetz. If it's kavua or lo kavua. Added eyelashes. So the amazing thing you find out when you get into these questions halacha is that how much effort women go into to look beautiful. It's an amazing thing. Not all the things that we think is so beautiful, but it's an amazing thing. And that you have to mimash understand what is false eyelashes. What is this? I don't know that, but I never heard of this thing until you get into halacha. You have to understand what it is. So if it's set, if it's kavua, if it's already attached, then it's clearly part of her body. If it's not, if it can come out, maybe it's noi. That's what achatchila we say you shouldn't use it, but maybe but the effort. Nodding in the hair, that's already a Shulchan Aruch. The nodding in the hair, the Shulchan Aruch says, you already learned that already, hey, shtei sarot that are connected together, not chotzetz, but if it's one sarah, then it is chotzetz. Okay, that we already know. So you have to remove all the hair. Yafeh. What about if I want them to die together? I want them to be rusted. I hope it's a bivrit. But English. Rastot is called? What is it called? Dreadlocks. So I once got a sheila from dreadlocks on a Thursday afternoon. And I was walking with my son to shul on Friday evening, and I saw a guy with dreadlocks. I thought, it's like Rav Chaim with the chagav, so I have the guy with dreadlocks. So the guy said to him, "Tell me how you make dreadlocks. I'm on the way to shul. I gotta, So he starts explaining to me. There's two shitot. I said, no. Just tell me how you do it. So can the shampoo get in? Can you get in? She said, yeah. L'chora. What's the problem here? Clearly, it's a kesher. It's a kesher, but it's a kesher that I want it to be there. I'm makpid that it should be there. So it's a rubo sheina makpid. But it's ruba of the se'ar. Again, we get into the question of we said before, can we look at the se'ar as part of the body, or is it a separate entity? However, maybe she wants it to be there. It's noi. I want it to be. I don't think it's so noi, but she wants it to be there. Ask Rav Yaakov Ariel. Rav Yaakov is the Rav of Ramat Gan, was the Rav of Ramat Gan. He should be the Rav Rosh of Israel already for many times, but that's we're not going to get into why he isn't. Aval, he's Michael Posek of Machon Puah today. So we speak to Rav Yaakov 3 or 4 times a day. So I asked Rav Yaakov, what do you think of restot? He says, Nashim shelanu lo osot rastot. That was his answer. Nashim shelanu lo osot rastot. Our women don't do it. What?
The Geirus can do it.
Yeah, yeah. And? He wanted to be. She wanted to be there. She wants it to be there. He or she? She wants it to be there. What? You can't remove it. It's not, yeah. So then it's maybe also it's like going back to Maseh Uman. Shela Tova. So I think generally we make it. You have to soak it before. You're fair. That's when you get the water in, right? Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so what about eyebrow tattoos? We're not going to get into all this. Hair removal. During the hair removal, there's a stage in which the hair is removed, but it's still a little bit there. So that's clearly something that's, until you get to the point in which we've completely removed it. But that's a process that takes, with a laser, that takes time. In this stage, is it chotzets? Shela Tova, right? So we're not necessarily an answer, but at this point there is a se'ar. Here there isn't. Here's clearly not chotzets. But so there are different stages of hair removal. Okay. So we generally say that it's miuto, ilo makpida. This is a big question in Israel. I don't know whether it's so much here. Everybody knows what this is? Lice. It's a lice comb. In Israel, there's a woman, I think in Bet Shemesh, she's called the lice lady. The women go to her, the kids go to her, and she removes the lice. So we never went to her. My wife is a big mumche in lice removal. Baruch Hashem, I have no idea what it means. But so lice chotzets. It's not so uncommon in Israel. Women have lice. You have kids in the gun, they have lice. So chayevet letapel mirosh ulasrik lotziyat. You have to remove all the lice and the eggs. The problem with the lice is that the lice lay eggs in the hair. You get rid of the lice, but then the eggs are there. The eggs are also chotzets l'chora. And the other problem is that the chomer, the stuff you put on to remove it itself is like an oily layer. So that oily layer also, the woman says, I want to remove it, but it's I have to. So this is shela. So if can she go into the water with it? But at some point it also comes to a point in that you can't do it anymore. Like you do it again and again and again, you're always going to find more lice. At some point you have to say, okay. Kaparat avanot. What?
You ever deal with the spray tan? Spray
tan. I think we have a b'tzima. But it's en mamash.
So at first it's yesh mamash.
The ben same vote. Yafeh. Dandruff it's very large. It's a problem. It's chotzets. Maybe smaller, not so much. What about some medical things? Implant, hearing implants. We have a very famous tshuva of Rav Moshe. Rav Moshe has several tshuvot at the beginning, the first volume of Yoredea, that he says about something that's very, very deep inside the ear. But this is an implant inside the ear, right? So if we have an implant or we have a hole in the top, in the uncles, we have a hole here. So you can't put your ear into the water. It's potentially mamash life-threatening. So we can do an operation to fix that. It's not so pashut. It also takes time. Can you fix it by putting in a plug? As we said, Rav Moshe's tshuva to putting in a cotton wool. That's a chotzets. Maybe some cotton wool is chotzets. What about earplugs? A person has a problem. They can only go into water with earplugs. So if it's very, very deep inside, that's beit starim. But if you can see it from the outside, it's not beit starim. That's Rav Moshe's tshuva v'vadai. So Rav Moshe says, here, in this case, there's no other possible way, so it's beit starim. Otherwise, he said a woman's never ever going to go to the mikveh. The Shevet HaLevi, as Rav Moshe says, the Shevet HaLevi says, even if the whole ear is covered, that's considered beit starim. It comes from the inside. It's a bit. But Rav Shlomo Zalman says only if it doesn't stick out. If it sticks out, you can't. But the other possibility, we spoke to a doctor, expert in ears, ear, nose, and throat. That's one specialty for some reason. Why does a specialty of hands and not a specialty of ear, nose, and throat? I know that. So he said if you put your fingers inside the ear, in most cases, it's sufficient. But don't give a psak like that unless you actually ask the doctor. When a woman comes to you with a problem, I have an ear infection, I can't put my ear in, you say, well, we once heard a shiur, you can put your finger. No, you have to ask a doctor. There's a beautiful Aruch HaShulchan about question of Ptichat HaKever. It's one of my favorite Aruch HaShulchan. All the Aruch HaShulchan is favorite, but that's my special favorite. He says, Drisha v'chakira me'arofim. You want to understand whether a particular procedure made a woman niddah? Drisha v'chakira min harofim. Don't assume that what I was once, that's kachazeh. No, these things change, and each case is slightly different. A colostomy pouch. Person has a problem with their digestion. Not able to digest. They have to wear a pouch. A pouch fills up with their feces. So if it's a problem, there's no medical problem for it to get wet. The problem is also that it actually will seep out into the mikveh. The feces can seep out into the mikveh. You have to also think about practicalities. So you can put a pad on it, some sort of tampon or something over it. Is that considered to be a chatzitzah? Because that pad I don't need. I just need for the other women to go to the mikveh. So that's a she'ela tova, what it's considered to be. So most time again, it's not so pashut that she's able to do that. Often we'll say to that woman, be the last in the mikveh. A woman has an infection, be the first in the mikveh. These little practical suggestions are incredibly important for a Rav. To understand, I'll speak to the balanit. If you're in a small kila, it's not such a problem. If you're a large kila, a big active mikveh, so you have to say that the balanit has to be alerted that this person's going to come. They're going to come first, or they're going to come last because they have an infection, and the water should be changed after. They change the water every so often, so she'll come last before the water's changed. Same with this woman. If the feces seeps out, she'll be able to be the last. Same with if we have a catheter with which collects the urine, right? Also, that's maybe more common than a colostomy. The catheter doesn't come out. It's inside, but it's also mi'ul chena makpid. We'll just mamash quickly. There's other things like a dialysis. Person has a catheter dialysis that's kavua. We have a PICC line for chemotherapy. Right? These things can all be. And the question is, can you cover it like with a PICC line covering? That's what it looks like. So that seems to be a really problem of chatzitzah. There are possibilities of having slightly smaller IUD. IUD is inside the uterus. It's a balua. Lechora, that's not nechotzetz. There were people who were choshesh to that.
What do people do with PICC lines? How do we?
So we have to get it very close. Not to have the whole big thing. Very close. And lechora, some say it's mutter. Depends how long it's on for. Depends how we need it. How it's going to get infected. It was a very, very, very serious cancer infection. Mamash, it's pikuach nefesh mamash. A nuva ring. A nuva ring is a contraceptive device which gives out estrogen and progesterone. It's inside the vagina, but it's not nogea. It's exactly what Moshe said. It's not nidbak. It's not nidbak. Lechora. We just said it's lechora easier. The question is, do we have to take it out lechatchila from tevilah? So some, like Rav Dabinovich said, even lechatchila you don't have to remove it. It's not considered bichlal. It's not kayam. Generally, lechatchila we take it out. It's not so pashut. Women take it out. Sometimes they then forget to put it back in, or it falls out, or it's not so easy to use again.
Taking it out for bedikot?
So we generally say for bedikot for hefsek. Some say rishon and shvi since they're ikka bedikas. I generally say no. Since you can do a bedika without it, and you don't need chorim stakim for all the other bedikot, so hefsek tara makes a lot of sense. You need to chorim stakim. For the other bedikot, generally we say you don't need it. But for tevilah, yes. What about a patch? There's a patch that gives off estrogen and progesterone. So that's it's also the chora question of chatzitzah. Some say no. If she was to get it with a husband, it's a refuah. She wants it to be there. Chotz mutar. This we can ignore. Plasters. Question of chotzets. Cast. So there's a thing that we developed in Israel called Magic Cast. Magic Cast is it comes in a when you wet it becomes hardens. So it comes in a bowl, you wrap it up, and then you wet it, and it becomes hardened. And inside, actually, the water can get mamash inside the whole thing. It can be put inside. That's the reason we have it. We wanted to see whether it actually goes through the whole. Actually goes through. How can you check it? So we got a guy who didn't need it. He put on Magic Cast, and we put him in a bowl of borscht. So he put the borscht in the borscht, and then you cut it off, and you see that the borscht is all over his leg. So you see, the borscht went through. So you see that it goes. That's what we say to people. So if a woman's coming, she's saying, I'm going to have it. I need it in the roast. They put in magic. It's something similar. If they don't, in Israel, we switch it. We have to see whether it's able to switch. So Baruch Hashem, Lo Alman Yisrael, there's 300,000 questions about Chatzitzot. I would say that the klal is, first of all, you need to know the medical reality. We're talking about medicine. You need to know the medical reality. Second of all, you need to know Are they really not able to go to the water? Because it's very easy for a doctor to say, don't go into water. Don't go into mikveh. Don't go to swimming pool. Mikveh and swimming pool, not the same thing. Many doctors, even in Eretz Yisrael, even some who have a religious patience, think that a mikveh is like this cesspool somewhere. There's a picture in the 12th century of a house. You go down into the basement, like they down, and at the bottom there's this little tiny horrible mikveh at the bottom. So that's what people think, like it's this sort of cesspool. Baruch Hashem. Every time I give a hartzah to doctors, I show a picture of a modern mikveh. The mikvehs are beautiful today. Beautiful. They're clean. They're beautiful. They're much cleaner than maybe even in people's houses sometimes. So it's important to know exactly what is the situation. You need to speak to a doctor. You need to have people who are able to advise you. And if you have a sheila and you don't know, then Baruch Hashem, we have people like Machon Puah able to go. I'm just rushing through to see. You see all of the possibilities. Fillings. We saw stitches, dental disease, braces, right? False teeth, false eyes we saw before. Stages of dental implants, dry hands. Then the last thing we're going to talk about is OCD. Every single person will have in their kila somebody who has obsession about halakha. Some of them, the obsession is Shabbat. They're obsessed with breaking Shabbat. Some of the obsession is Pesach. And some of the obsession will be Tefillah. Every single time they have a Chatzitzot, every single badika is problematic. We used to think that the way to deal with, and how to deal with OCD is a whole hartzah of itself, and on Usman, but this, b'maz daka. We used to think that the way to do it was to give an answer. I'm the Rav, I took responsibility, mutter. The problem with that is that the whole point of OCD, or the whole machala of OCD, is an inability to live with safek. And the Torah teaches us to live with safek. There's a guy, Moshe Halbertal, he put out a whole book on safek. It's a small book. It's worth reading between Mincha and Ma'ariv. It's a nice little book on safek. So we have to live with safek. A person with OCD is unable to live with safek. If you tell them the psak, you didn't solve the problem. They still have a safek. Maybe you're wrong. So the treatment, and it's not all a Rav can do that, is not to tell them this is the answer, but to teach them to live with safek. And oftentimes with OCD, you have to learn how to do it. It's not a 2-minute course. It's a whole course how to learn how to live with OCD. But you will have people do that. If you don't know how to deal with it, speak to a psychologist who knows how to. And not every psychologist, but a psychologist who knows how to deal with OCD. There's someone really, really good at that. This guy in Israel called Gideon Weitzman is a mumche to deal with OCD. That's what he does. That's his whole practice, more or less. So to deal with OCD, you have to give the person that ability. At the end of the day, they're going to have to live with their safek. And so some say no. To give again an answer, you're actually making it sometimes worse. And therefore, sometimes OCD, the best thing is to give them an answer. You have to give an answer. Don't not give a tshuva. Give a tshuva, and that's it. The person says, "Oh, it's a good question." Sha'al tova. Rav Shechter is brilliant at that. Nachon. Sha'al tova. Good question. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. So that maybe Rav Shechter wants us to not have OCD. Maybe that's why he does that.
Mordechai Eliyahu's approach with the apple is not a good approach.
That's but that's a very specific thing, right? But to say, okay, that I gave you. That's still a safek, but I give you the ability to live with a safek. I'm giving you a kli to live with that safek. There are other kelim. So I don't know if it's the only answer. It's a very, very big problem. It becomes a problem as we become more and more frantic. And it's something that you'll meet and you need to deal with. And as you said, לחזור לחיות עם הספק. זהו. תודה רבה. תודה רבה. Sorry, I'm
unable to come to the next shiur.
Tell him it was a pressure. If you need anything, you call me. If you need a better.
I think you gave the answer.
Okay, I'm sending him a banana later on. You want to show us something? B'simcha. B'simcha mamash. Rabbi Leibowitz. We're staying here?
No, we're going.
Okay, no. Going across the street.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's exciting.
I don't know if we have
what
PowerPoint ability across the street. I'm not sure.
If not, we'll do it by paper. But I hope so. Have a nice presentation. Seder was. I'm sorry, it was very fast. I like how far it was fast for the chevra. That was good. But I can leave the PowerPoint if people want. And if that's what people want. Yes.
You were mentioning before, in some communities they shave their hair, in some communities.
Yeah.
Do you think that things like